Hello and welcome to the Open SAP course, Building Apps with the ABAP RESTful Application Programming Model, Week 3, Unit 8, Troubleshooting your SAP Fiori app. My name is Volker Drees and I'm a product expert for the ABAP RESTful Application Programming Model. In the previous unit, you learned how to add draft handling to our Travel Business object. Now we will have a look at some of the various troubleshooting options and tools available. Probably the most important tool that you need for troubleshooting your business object implementation is the ABAP debugger. Putting a breakpoint into, for example, some of your method implementation allows you to execute the program step by step and check the content of the related variables. The runtime error analysis comes into play whenever a short dump is thrown. This might happen, for example, if a method is not returning the expected result and the framework is not able to proceed. The gateway error log shows errors that occur during processing of data calls. It is embedded into the ADT feed reader. Most of the common browsers support developer tools that typically can be invoked using the F12 button. These tools support you in analyzing the HTTP network calls performed by your app. Understanding the calls and their responses often help to identify and solve problems. On the CDS side, there are several tools that help you in define and analyze your CDS data model. Most commonly used is for sure the data preview that works for database tables as well. Besides the pure preview capabilities, it offers many options to, for instance, filter and sort your data. For more complex queries, it contains an SQL console. In the context of CDS, you can also follow associations that are defined in your CDS view. The dictionary log comes into play whenever an activation of one or many CDS view fails and more detailed information about the failure is needed. The annotation propagation and active annotations view help you to analyze the annotations finally used as well as to understand where they might be inherited from. Now let's go into the system and see some of the troubleshooting tools. Let's start with the ABAP debugger. Open the behavior implementation for the travel entity. Navigate to the Accept Travel Action implementation and put a breakpoint at the modify statement. Run the Fiori Elements application and put a record into draft. Click the Accept Travel button. The breakpoint is hit. Switch to the debug perspective. Double-click on the keys import table. The debugger shows the content of the entire table. As expected, the %isDraft indicator is set as we perform this operation on a draft record. Please note the usage of %transactional key, which represents the transactional key including the draft indicator. Use step over F6 to execute the EML modify statement. Hover over the failed structure to validate no failed key is provided. The same holds true for the reported structure. Execute the EML read statement. Double-click on the travels table to see the fetched values. As expected, the travel status was set to A. Execute the value statement to fill the result. Hover over the result table and drill down. This allows for an easy analysis of the content of even complex nested tables. Click on Resume F8. Reject the travel by clicking Reject Travel in the application. Activate the draft record by clicking Save and click the Accept Travel button again. Now we can see that the method implementation is called with the same key, but with the isDraft flag set to 0, which means it's an active record. The transactional key contains the corresponding value. As you can see, the implementation is able to handle both kinds of records, draft records as well as active records. That's why we strongly recommend making use of the transactional key even in non-draft applications, as it makes the draft enabling a lot easier. Remove the breakpoint and click on Resume. Put a few travel instances into edit mode. In the behavior implementation, open the getFeatures method and put a breakpoint at the first statement. Perform a query on the Fiori Elements UI. The keys table now contains all active records from the first page. The implementation uses the Mars-enabled EML read statement to fetch the travel status for all records with one call. The result table is filled with the corresponding data. Keep the breakpoint and resume the execution with F8. As you can see, the breakpoint is hit again, this time for all draft records from the first page. Remove the breakpoint and resume the execution. The getFeatures is called for the query because the UI is requesting control flags to enable or disable the actions that we have defined. These flags are merged with the authorization control. Both the feature control and the authorization control are merged into the so-called consumer hints. Now switch back to the ABAP perspective. You might have noticed already the ABAP element info that I'm using. It can be invoked by clicking F2 on, for instance, a variable. The element info can also be opened as a permanent view by clicking Window, Show View, Other, and then ABAP element info. Make sure to have the link with selection option enabled. Then the view is automatically refreshed when you click on an element. This is very helpful as it quickly shows you the declaration of the related element. The Relation Explorer is another helpful tool to visualize the structure of development artifacts. It can be used for behavior definitions and for projections and shows the entities of the business object as well as actions, determinations and validations. The Relation Explorer can be opened similar to the ABAP element info via Window, Show View, Other, and then Relation Explorer. Again, make sure to enable link with editor so that the view gets updated with the content of the editor. Open the base behavior definition. Right-click on, for example, the Set Initial Status Determination allows you to directly navigate to the declaration in the behavior definition. To the declaration of the method in the implementation class, as well as to the actual method implementation. But the Relation Explorer is not just for business objects. It supports many object types, for instance ABAP classes. Select the Behavior Implementation class and switch to Used Objects. As you can see, all used objects of the ABAP class are shown. Most of the common browsers support developer tools that typically can be invoked using the F12 button. We use them to monitor the HTTP calls sent by the Fiori Elements client to the backend. The developer tools allow you to see the entire HTTP request and the response with the header and body information. Start the developer tools from the Fiori Elements app and reload the page. If you want to filter for OData calls, enter the filter OData. In our case, the first entry in the list is the metadata file. HTTP code 304 means not modified, so the file was taken from the cache. Clicking on the entry allows you to see the request information as well as the response. The Preview tab allows you to drill down into the content. This helps to understand the metadata sent by the backend. The second entry is the annotations file, which provides the vocabulary-based annotations for our service. Click the Go button to perform a query. You see a corresponding $batch call is triggered. The GET call inside the $batch includes the paging information reflected as $skip and $top. The sort order is specified with the $order by query option. Furthermore, you find a filter and a select statement. $inline count provides the number of records matching the filter criteria. Opening the object page of a travel triggers further $batch calls. You will find a request for the travel header as well as a request for fetching the list of bookings. Click on an action, either accept or reject, will show the details of the request. The response contains a travel record with the updated value. This is because we've defined $self as response in the behavior definition and the behavior implementation is providing the corresponding data. Activating a draft record shows the orchestration, which first consists of a prepare call. This triggers the draft determine action prepare with its associated determinations and validations. The prepare action can by definition not fail, as it is supposed to check the draft record and collect messages. In the same $batch, but in a different change set, you find the activate draft action. The third call is a get call that fetches the active instance. In the ABAP development tools, open the travel projection view. Press F8 to launch the preview. This shows you the first 100 rows of the CDS view. Right-click on an entry allows you, for instance, to follow an association. Choose Booking and you see the list of associated bookings. You can further drill down and navigate to the customer, the country, and so on. The breadcrumbs at the top allow you to jump back and to pick a different association. Jump back to the travel node. Right-click an agency ID and choose Distinct Values. This shows the distinct values and their distribution. Right-click on an agency ID and choose Quick Filter. This adds a filter for agency ID with the chosen value. Copy all rows as ABAP value statement allows you to easily add a value constructor in your ABAP code with the selected records. The SQL console gives you complete flexibility in defining your SQL statement. Active annotations. Right-click the Travel Projection CDS view and choose Active Annotations. Double-click the tab, expands it to full screen. This view shows the annotations valid for your CDS view and where they originate from. As an example, you can see the defined actions for the list as well as for the object page that are associated with the travel status. This view is very helpful, especially in complex scenarios in which annotations might be inherited over several CDS views. That was it for the system demo. We are now at the end of this unit. Let me do a short recap. In this unit you have learned about troubleshooting your ABAP implementation, checking the network calls of your app, and how the ABAP development tools help you to analyze and define your CDS data model. Further information for this unit is available in the appendix of this presentation. We are now at the end of week 3 of the Open SAP course Building Apps with the ABAP RESTful Application Programming Model. Thanks for listening and see you next week, where we build an app based on existing code making use of the unmanaged scenario.